We meet our next guest, Anagha. Namaskar, how are you?
Namaste, fine. And how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. You've been sitting there patiently for about half an hour while I was asking questions of Shruti ji. Anagha, I want to first hear your experience, and there may be some questions in course of that conversation. And then afterwards, again, like I was telling Shruti ji, we will have a round robin session where there'll be some common set of questions. Please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thank you, PGurus channel, for giving us an opportunity to share our experiences. I'm Anagha. I'm from Thrissur, Kerala. I was born into an Orthodox Brahmin family. Since I was born in a Hindu family, I lived as a Hindu. That's all. There was no ways to study Sanatana Dharma at that time. So from the very young age itself, I grew up seeing a lot of rituals that doesn't make any sense to me. Whenever I question about this, my parents used to say that just because our ancestors had done this, we are also following the same. Obviously, I was not satisfied. I did my higher secondary studies in a government school. There, I came to know that during Fridays, all government schools offer Muslim students an extra 1 hour for their Juma Namaz. I was still wondered why this kind of a bias even from a government school. I thought that there should be something special in this religion, and I had a curiosity to more about it. I also noticed that my Muslim friends had a good knowledge and a strong commitment to their religion. So I tried to know more about Islam. But at that time, I hadn't any intention to convert. My Islamic ideology influenced me strongly during my college days. I studied physiotherapy from Ernakulam. I was staying there in a hostel, and most of my roommates were Muslims. So during casual conversations, religion also became our topic. They asked me many questions for which, honestly, I don't have answers. So I got confused and I asked these questions to my parents and relatives, but I didn't get any satisfying answers. So I started to study more about Hinduism from internet. That also I couldn't see any sources in which gives me a satisfying answer about Hinduism. Slowly, I came to the conclusion that there is nothing right in Hinduism, and at the same time, my friends started to share the ideology of Islam. They said it was the religion of peace, and Muhammad is the last prophet and the only guide for whole humanity. They also boasted about the holy book, the Quran, that it is 1,400 years old and it has lots of scientific facts, which the world is realizing now, and no one have the power to change it, that it will be protected by Allah till the end of the world. And they also shared me videos of Zakir Naik, 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐬𝐿, etc., to slowly convert me to Islam. And they also introduced me about the heaven and hell, and also the idea of covering my body and head. They told that women should not expose themselves in front of men. Their beauty should only be seen by their husbands. Otherwise, Allah will punish them. And at the end of the 4 years, I was totally brainwashed, and I decided that I definitely am going to convert. The place where I worked was also favorable for my Islamic studies and also practicing prayers and all. And fear of torments of hell increased day by day. And after 2 years of my career life, I also decided to convert. I resigned from my job and went to my home. I told my parents and sisters that I'm going to convert. I even tried to convert my little sister. I succeeded to a certain extent, but not fully. My parents and sisters actually were shocked to see my change in behavior and dressing. Actually, I have to say that it was the worst 4 months of my life because I have changed completely. I started to do namas in my home. I stopped singing, dancing, watching movies, hearing songs. So actually, I was a talkative person and I love to interact with people. I have stopped completely dealing with people. I became silent. At that days, I even forgot to smile because I was afraid of everything. That even if I do a small mistake, Allah is going to punish me cruelly. I got irritated whenever I missed my namaz. I showed this anger and frustration to my parents and sisters. They were totally broken seeing change in my behavior. Actually, they were at the verge of suicide. They told me that if I convert, they will end up their lives. But I was so adamant in my decision. I was not at all bothered about their tears and words because it is said in the Quran that you need not to obey your parents unless they are Muslims. Even Muhammad didn't pray for his parents since they were not Muslims. So I stood strong in my decision and I continued doing namaz at home. Whenever I stepped out of house, I wore hijab. Saying this, some of the Hindu activists came to my house and they connected my parents with Aarsha Vidya Samajam, and thus I came to Aarsha Vidya Samajam.
Now, did you also have to undergo food habits change? Did you have to start eating meat? Were you a meat eater at home or
Actually, no, my friends didn't compel me to eat all those
meat?
things.
I see. I see. Okay. Now, when you were going through that phase when you're trying to be a Muslim, did you feel suffocated? I mean, for everything, Muhammad is held up as the ideal. Yet, did you know enough to ask, like, how come he married a 6-year-old girl? Things of that nature, where there is a little bit of that objectification of the female gender that comes into play. Did you have that kind of a depth of understanding, or did I mean? I'm trying to understand how deep you got into it, where you could ask them and put them on the spot, saying, "How do you explain this?"
Actually, first, in initial phase while I was studying about Islam, I used to ask questions because every common man have that questions, right? So I used to ask those questions, but my friends used to say that you should not doubt Islam or Quran because it's God's word. It is the shaitan or iblis that is forcing you to think too much and think too much about Quran. So at the first stage itself, they cut my thoughts or asking questions further.
And now let us go back to Vishali ji. Vishali ji, you have been one of the people who has been constantly trying to, get us together. We've what 3-4 months now. My apologies. I
Yeah,
was traveling, and
that's
then
okay.
somehow things didn't quite. COVID is a very unusual time to be in existence, and it's just difficult. But I'm glad that we are having this conversation. Vishali ji, maybe you can share your experience. Where are you from? And then maybe I can ask you more questions based on what your experience has been.
Okay, so to tell a little bit about my family background, I was born in Kasargod, but I grew up in various cities like Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, etc. My schooling was from these cities, and my college engineering was from Bangalore again. So I was born in a so-called upper caste Hindu family with the deep RSS background. But like all Hindu families in general, I grew up without any systematic education about my dharma. We were not very
Yes,
practicing
yes,
Hindus.
yes.
We are Hindus because we are born Hindus, and
Correct.
that spirit and all that. So I did not know what it meant to be a Hindu in the first place. I saw customs and rituals around me, and if I asked my parents the significance of them, they too didn't have answers to it. They said that it's been followed through the generations, and so we have to follow them because they also didn't know what the customs meant or why we are doing what we are doing. So I found these many customs unnecessary, like making huge offerings to deities, um, and all that. Like offering, suppose I am applying for an exam, say entrance exam, and my mother would make huge promises or huge offerings to a particular deity that if my daughter clears this exam, then I'll offer this and this. So all that was very funny, and because I grew up in different cities and I was exposed to a more cosmopolitan and diverse cultures, and my friends were also not very practicing themselves. So I grew up to be an agnostic. By the time I reached college, I was almost answer. I mean, I was almost seeking answers and questioning everything. Although I'm not an atheist. I was not an atheist, but I was an agnostic. I wanted solid proof for whatever I wanted to believe in before I could believe in something. Surprisingly, I observed that in college, the Christians and Muslim classmates grew more radical day by day. Those who had dressed very progressively during the start of college had started covering themselves in hijabs and burqas by the end of college. And since I
Did
always
they
had a
tell you
spiritual,
why they were suddenly turning more inwards? Did they tell you? Did you ask them, hey, suddenly why are you wearing a burqa? Is there a problem from the family? Is there pressure from the family? Did you ask them?
they seem to be more influenced by the friend circle they were in. Their friend circle was mostly restricted to Muslims. If it's a Muslim, then Muslim friend circle, Christian friend circle usually. So, in the course of their conversations, the friends try to influence them into being more. For example, I remember one of my friends. She wore a sleeveless dress one day, and one other Muslim boy asked him, "How come you're wearing a sleeveless dress? You're a Muslim. You're not supposed to wear clothes like that." So that's how the change started coming in.
Now, I'm sorry, I think I may have interrupted your flow. So let's get back to the point where you said your two
Huh.
classmates, just one, for example, one was a Christian, the other was a Muslim. They suddenly became much more religious. They started becoming more radical in their thoughts. How did that affect you as a friend? Did your friendship suffer because of that?
The friendship didn't suffer, but I was definitely curious because I didn't see my Hindu friends becoming more radical or more practicing in the course of college. But I saw especially Muslims becoming more radical day by day. So I was curious. I started asking them what brought in that change. And so they would try to explain Islamic concepts to me. They would show me Islamic videos or tell me about Islamic concepts. And that got me more interested. But my actual inclination towards Islam began when I started working post college. I was working in an IT company. That's where most of my colleagues were co-workers were Muslims, and through the course
Oh,
of our
a high-tech
conversations,
company. Did you say high-tech company?
IT company, yes,
IT company. Okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
Wow. Now, so okay, let us continue the story. So you joined,
yeah,
started working in an IT company where the majority of the employees or your colleagues were of Islamic faith. Then what
yes.
happened?
So they were during the course of our conversations, they used to ask many questions like Shruti-ji and Anagha-ji mentioned, why do you have so many gods, or why do you have an elephant? Why do you have an elephant-headed god? Why do you have so many customs and all that? And
Did you think?
initially, I
Just one sorry, sorry. I did this. I have to ask this
that's okay,
question.
that's okay,
Looks like there is a list of questionnaire that's given to all these people. They ask these questions.
exactly.
Why is there an elephant god? Why is there a monkey god? And please go ahead.
The questions are more or less uniform everywhere. So initially, although I tried to defend it with my common sense or logic, whatever I could at that time, but later I started to feel I was out of answers. I couldn't defend them any longer. So I had to give in to their arguments, and they started presenting Islam in good light. That they have only one God, they have one prophet. His teachings are uniform everywhere throughout the world, and it's being practiced even today. Wherever you go, Islamic faith and customs and rituals are same, things like that. So that's how I started getting inclining towards Islam. I had not decided to convert. My inclination had only grown stronger, and slowly by slowly I had started becoming anti-Hindu. Anti-Hindu means questioning about Hindu, because there was no person who could answer my questions related to Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, right? So all the answers I was getting was about Islam only, and I tried to learn about Hindu Dharma, Christianity, Islam online, but there was no single source of Islam, single source about Hindu Dharma which could give uniform answers everywhere. It was only Islam and it was only Islam. Even whereas Christianity also, if you read the Bible, you will get lost. You will get very confused. If you read the first chapter itself, it's very confusing. So Islam is where I thought the way they presented it, it felt very convincing to me at that point, and I wanted to learn it in more detail. So that's how I was inquiring. But at that time, somebody told me that there is this institution in Kerala called Aarsha Vidya Samajam, where they are teaching comparative religion. They teach both Hindu Dharma, that is Sanatana Dharma, Islam, Christianity. So you can go there and you can attend their course and for some time. That's how I attended the course, and through the course, within 1.5 months, I was fully convinced about Sanatana Dharma and how wrong my beliefs about Islam were, and I was able to come back. I was fully convinced that Sanatana Dharma is the right religion, right Dharma, and I left my job. I became a full-time pracharika at Aarsha Vidya Samajam since then. That was about 4.5 years back.
That's wonderful to know. And now I'd like to bring everybody back in.